Hi, Cozy Souls, and hi, listeners. My name is Alyssa, and I am your host of Stories and Spoilers, the podcast. In this very cozy episode, I hope that you have a drink and that you are sitting somewhere comfortable because this episode is going to be romance book recommendations that have no sexy scenes, no spice, maybe fade to black, or are termed as closed door romances, which, to my understanding, is when there may be a kiss or maybe tension leading up to spicy scenes, but it kind of is like PG-13 and you don't see anything and it's not really described. And the story kind of goes from there, but they don't explicitly describe what just occurred. Um, I really wanted to do an episode about this because I did have a few listeners and friends mention that they like to read romances where the sexy scenes aren't explicit or they're not diving deep into it. Maybe they're reading it with a book club and they don't feel comfortable reading about this stuff with a lot of people around, or it's just not their cup of tea. And there was one specific follower who mentioned that she really likes PG-13 romances where like it's not super explicit. And I realized I didn't have an episode about that. And I also sometimes just want a sweet romance here and there. So that is what this episode is about. The beauty of this episode is that I have 10 recommendations and I won't go into spoilers. I'll keep them very vague. And then I also asked some followers on Bookstagram about their recommendations for closed door romances, and they had a lot. So I didn't get all of them because I did have to record this episode at some point, but I did get a lot. So I will list them in the show notes below so you can check them out as well. They'll all link to Goodreads or to Amazon, and we'll kind of just go from there. But I want to hop into my recommendations first. Before we start, I actually got some mail on my way home, and I wanted to open it with y'all and show you some books that I got. I got two. I recently won a giveaway, and I feel so, so grateful. So, the first book I got was actually from an author. This is not part of a giveaway. Was because I really want to review this book. Let me know if you would listen to an episode about it. This is Wishful Thinking by Celestine Martin. I'm so sorry for saying your name wrong, but Celestine Martin. So I really, really want to do a deep talk about this book. Um, I this is an advanced copy, so it actually came out in 2022. But I've always had my eye on this book. I've always wanted to read more about it. I am all here for Black female characters, magic, small town romances, independent authors. I just want to read all the books, okay? If you saw my last episode with Kay, she was amazing. Kay Clancy also wrote a witchy young adult book, and it was super beautiful. This one, to my knowledge, is an adult book with a witch in a small town and maybe someone she has a crush on. I'm going to read a little bit about it so you can hear about it too. Lucinda Carraway loves living in Freya Grove, the mystic seaside town where charms and hexes and magical beings of all kinds are the norm. She spends her days teaching high school history and her nights reading tea leaves, tending to her conjure garden. It's a good life, but she can't stop wishing for more. Until one night, that wish turns into a spell. And suddenly, Lucy can't say no. Not to a public karaoke performance, not to running a 10K, and most alarmingly, not to her high school crush, Alexander Dwyer, who needs her help unjinxing his house, which happens to be right across the street from hers. Alex has spent the last 10 years traveling around the world on adventures Lucy has only dreamed of, but he's planning to leave again as soon as his house is safe to sell. But until Lucy can unhex herself, she and Alex are stuck together. I love to hear it. And with so much magic in the air, maybe the next spell Lucy casts will be the one that convinces him to stay. This is so cute. Thank you so, so much, Celestine Martin, for sending me this book. I cannot wait to read it. I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong, but I hope that I get to read it because I know that you also have really cozy autumnal books that are out. And they all have Black female characters as the main character, cozy, like small town vibes, and a sweet romance. So I'm very excited to read this. We'll see what happens. I'm very excited. And then my next piece of mail was from my wish list. Someone bought me a book off my wish list from a giveaway. So let me open this. So the note says, congrats on being the grand prize winner from Kayla at a novel account. Thank you so much, Kayla. I really appreciate this. Let's see what book she got me. I have so many books on my wish list. Woo, I would be grateful for anything. Um, Okay, dark romance. What? I won't dive into this in this episode right now because this is a non-spicy romance episode. But this book I know is spicy. And I do love a good spicy book, you know? I'm a mood reader, so I switch between spice and no spice. I switch. But I do know that this is dark academia and taboo. And I love it. I love it. Thank you so, so much, Kayla. I'm very, very grateful. So thank you. I love like whatever I want to give away, I'm in shock because I feel very lucky. I feel very lucky. I feel very hopeful. Okay, we're gonna hop into my non-spicy closed door romances where there's not a lot of spice going on. These are my top tens, and then I'll move on to Bookstagram recommendations. Everyone who commented in the comments, thank you so much. I will also link three or four Bookstagrammers and book bloggers in the show notes who did similar episodes or videos about books with no spice, no sexy scenes. So you have my recommendations, Bookstagram recommendations, and booktube recommendations. So yeah, everything will be linked in the show notes below. All right, let's hop right into it. So, one of my first recommendations is technically speaking by Micheal Elliot. You can only listen to this on Audible, but it is so good. It's a Black romance. It has women and technology. It has autism representation because the main character's son has autism and she's a single mom and she's just trying to go from she was working in like the cafeteria of this big tech company. She's super smart and she was seeing some things going on. People were deeply unhappy, burning out, and she just wanted the opportunity to apply her knowledge into the tech industry, but she couldn't get her foot in the door. So someone ends up leaving their ID in the cafeteria, and she's going to leave for like she was pregnant, and she's gonna be on leave. So the main character, who's voiced by Coco Jones, yeah, she's voiced by Coco Jones, which is a goddess. She's so beautiful. And long story short, the character, she ends up taking the ID and faking the identity of this woman who's now on leave so that she can make some extra money and give her son the therapy he needs and be able to kind of afford a better life for a little while. But she ends up falling in love with the CEO's son. And it's just a super cute romance. It's a slow burn. It has found family. I listened to it in like one day. It was not that long and it was so good. The only caveat is that it could only be found on Audible, but it's honestly worth it. Like it was really great. And I don't remember it being that expensive. I think it was under $10 when I got it. The next one, I actually don't have a physical copy, but I'm on the ARC team for this author. This is not me shouting her out, just 'cause I'm on her ARC team. It's because she's actually a really amazing author. And this is Between Mischief and Magic by Marissa Serraro. So this is sapphic. It has bisexual representation as well. Marissa is also an independent author, so she is the one who's really kind of going in depth designing the cover of this beautiful book. She also kind of gives you a glimpse into her passion for fantasy and romance. There is not like an in-depth sexy scene in any of these books, but there's lots of tension, and I love it. There's great banter. There's a princess and a magical edgy girl, so it's giving like Flynn Rider and Rapunzel, but queer, which is fantastic. If you're into that, I am. We are allies here. And as a queer woman, I really appreciate reading books with LGBTQIA plus representation, but that also can be kind of wholesome and adorable. So yeah. I don't have a physical copy of this book yet. I read it on my Kindle, but I hope one day I can get a copy because I love every book by Marissa. I cannot wait to see what she releases next, and I feel so blessed to be on her ARC team. So that's one book. If I was going to give a brief description about what Between Mischief and Magic is about, it's about a young elven princess who sees that her kingdom is really falling into disarray. The woods is kind of beginning to die off, and their magic is what the land lives off of. You also have dual POV, so you have this like mystical girl who like throws daggers and stuff, and she's kind of in like a rough and tumble part of her life. She just went through a really nasty breakup. Like her brother kind of kicked her out of the house because he wants some privacy. And long story short, she ends up bumping into the princess in a tavern, and she ends up trying to kind of help her if she gets paid. She's gonna help her kind of save the forest and figure out what's going on with the kingdom and kind of reclaim her power. It is so great. It was very fast paced. The romance was a slow burn, but I loved their banter. And there was something so beautiful about the way that they both grew as people and how their friendship and that enemies to lovers element kind of does later become more. And it was really good. So I hope you read Between Mischief and Magic. Marissa also has another book that's out that's about a siren and a selkie. Yeah. So if you've ever wanted to like play mermaids, but also like you had crushes on girls and like romantic vibes, this is for you. Like it's so good. So that's another amazing book. And that's between Salt and Serenades. And that's also great. So you can find that on Kindle or as a physical book as well. But yeah, just to start, Between Mischief and Magic is great. But yeah, if you're in fantasy, let's go on to the next one. So I'm going to recommend Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is futuristic. It has high fantasy elements. It's a Cinderella retelling. It's definitely young adult, but it does touch on some adult themes about like class. The strong female main character, she's also like darkly funny, which I liked. And she's also partially a cyborg, which is fun. And I really enjoyed it because it's part of an amazing series. You have Cinder, you have Scarlet, you have Winter. So, so good. Each book is a spin off of a fantasy element, like be it Red Riding Hood or Snow White, but more like the grim version of it. Like there's dark elements, which I appreciate. So in Cinder, you also get a slow burn romance between the prince and the main character. It's definitely like they come from different places and like there's a lot of miscommunication, but the pure like chemistry between them and the way that she challenges him to look at the world in a different way, I adored. So a little bit about Cinder. I read this in middle school, but this book has stuck with me. I have yet to find a fantasy book that made me feel so enamored in the story, like reading late night under your covers with the light on, like you can't stop. This book is exactly like that, and I still feel that way as an adult. So Cinder is about a young woman who works in this like tech shop. It's a little bit like cyberpunky. It's a little futuristic. So she works there, and long story short, the prince comes in one day and he needs help with something, and it kind of just goes from there. But you discover that Cinder truly just wants freedom and agency. The core story isn't about the love, but the love story is in the background, and it's so good. And all the books in the series kind of connect to each other. So if you're into that, this is a good like entry to a high fantasy with romance going on in the background, but it's still there. So it's fun. It's great. The next one is Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Sher Lee. I read this book last year with a book club and it was so cute. It was giving like Hallmark but queer, and I love it. It felt like a cozy romance. It also had Singaporean representation. It had banter. It had a supportive family. The main character being queer was not the conflict by any means, which I appreciated because it wasn't like trauma based in that way. Also, it does once again touch on class and grief. So, trigger warning, it does discuss the passing of a parent, and the main character is kind of managing that and like trying to navigate that grief over time. But Fake Dates and Mooncakes is about the main character. It is young adult. He is working at a restaurant with his family. It's a small restaurant. They live above the restaurant and they're going through hard times. And he's delivering food to this like rich neighborhood. And the guy who opens the door is like super rude. It says he's gonna give him bad reviews because he was late, but he had to like commute on like pretty much like a bike. Like, he was going through a hard time. And then a really cute guy is in the apartment, I guess, as well. And he's like, hey, stop being mean to him. Love interest, wholesome, cinnamon roll, fantastic. Anyway, so one thing leads to another, and the cute guy from that night ends up popping into the family shop, and he's like, eating the food. He's like, this is so amazing. He's rich. The main character comes from more middle class, and like they're kind of struggling financially. Their dynamic, it's like they become friends, but there is flirtation there. Also, there's a bit of a fake dating situation because one of the characters needs a date to a wedding, and he has to like fake being his boyfriend, but there's real feelings there. So that was actually really cute. There's also a competition for the mooncakes because if they win this competition, then they'll be able to have the money to support the restaurant, maybe get a new location. So there's also a bit of like a food competition element. So that was also good. The stakes were not super high, but you do care for the family a lot. There's corgis. There's a corgi that they own, which is super cute. And Sher Lee has a way of just writing romances that feel fluffy and light while also having deeper elements that make you love the characters and love the side characters a lot. So this was also really, really good. Another book that I wanted to recommend was Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. This is young adult set in Tuscany, so it's definitely giving like Under the Tuscan Sun, but like for young adults. It's giving first love. It's also been adapted from a book to a film on Netflix. So I did remember seeing a movie that was similar to Love and Gelato on Netflix. So I'm pretty sure it was the same. Hear me out, hear me out. It's not the same plot from the book to the film. They do differ. But if I mean, if you ever want to read a book and you're like, "Wish you could see this on the screen," this is the one for you. Love and Gelato follows a young woman who, her mom had passed away in the past. She had a diary, and long story short, she's reading through the diary. A father she didn't really know invites her to Tuscany. She goes a bit separate, a little alienated from him, and she ends up finding love there. She ends up reading these notes from her mom and these experiences from her mom in the diary that reflect what she's going through in modern day. There's secrets a little bit in it as well, so I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I liked Love and Gelato. I thought it was super good. Next is Girls, Girls, Girls by Haley Kayiko. I actually saw her live when I was in high school. She's amazing. So I have a physical copy of this. I read this summer. This is coming of age, LGBTQIA representation, first love, small town romance. I do want to say once again, check the trigger warnings because this has loss of a parent and discussion of self-harm. There's also like I guess elements of internalized homophobia from a certain character. She's very like distant at one point and then close in another, and there's just a little bit of conflict there and you feel for her. So this book follows a young woman as she moves in with her dad who was kind of separated from her. She feels like he left. And he's a really sweet person actually, and they end up getting closer over time. She bumps into this really lively girl who shows her this amazing summer. They become very close. She has a crush on her, and then one thing leads to another, and there's also like an anonymous messaging part which I don't want to give away, but like there's an anonymous messaging which is very similar to like a chat where someone would post on, let's say, like Facebook or like yeah, I don't know, like little things like that, like a poem, and it would be all anonymous. But the main character begins to realize that the woman she's falling in love with online and the woman she's falling in love with in person may be the same person. So if you like You've Got Mail, young adult, sapphic and bisexual representation, and just kind of elements of grief and overcoming that and healing in a family while also having a budding young romance in it, this book is 100% for you. I think for Haley Kaiko, this being her first book, I definitely felt it a little bit, but I still enjoyed how raw and vulnerable it was. So I thought this was a super good kind of summer or spring read. The next book I want to recommend, as we're really getting into it, is a little bit heavier. And this is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. My friend Samantha recommended this to me. She always had the best books, so I was very grateful for this recommendation. This is coming of age, young adult. You better have your tissues ready because you're gonna cry. There's sad moments, there's grief, there's past and present POV, so it hops from when they were it's definitely friends to lovers, like childhood friends to lovers. If that's for you, this book is 100% for you. The slow burn is slow burning. Um, but it's from the past when they were children to now when they're teens and young adults. You also get dual POV. You get Poppy, the female main character, and then you get Rune, the male main character, and you kind of get to see them go from children to kind of like edgy teens who like no one understands to like a little bit older teens where they're like one is more grounded in like reality and the other one is kind of fighting the tide and oh it's so good. So I want to describe A Thousand Boy Kisses in the I guess vaguest way possible so you can really go into it open-minded. But I am going to give a trigger warning for discussions of cancer, death of a relative, and of a main character who's young. There is a sexual scene, but it's fade to black. And I also wanted to say that it discusses intense themes of grief. So, if that's hard for you, please put your mental health first. But something I loved about A Thousand Boy Kisses and the romance element is that it's such a core part of the story. It really does give like Faded. It gives We Were Always Meant to Be Together. For lovers of like The Fault in Our Stars, this is that times 20. Like it's just like Rune and Poppy, like their dynamic and like the push and pull and like the ripple effect of Rune's actions and how lonely he felt at times, you memorable and they affected her forever. And long story short, Poppy's to fill this jar with 1,000 boy kisses. She tells Rune about it, their childhood friends. And he's like taken aback. He's like, I want to feel that, like, I want to be that guy. Like, you shouldn't just be kissing any guy, you should be kissing me. And as they get older, they begin to fall deeper and deeper in love from friends to lovers. But then something happens and it separates them for a time. And there's a lot of hurt there and Rune ends up coming back. But there's distance, there's secrets, there's a separation, and the story kind of goes from there and what their love will endure and what it will face, and uh, the importance of time and love and family and communication and making the most of what you have. And it's just such a beautifully written story as well. So what you think you're going into, it's so much more than that. And I just loved how this book discussed young love, forever love, grief, friendship, communication, honesty. Like it was just so, so good. So yeah, I loved it. A Thousand Boy Kisses, I highly recommend. And a second book came out discussing what her sister went through. I haven't read it yet, but I do have it on my shelf. I do plan on reading it at some point. It's okay. So now I'm gonna hop into some of the video recommendations that I found online. I'm just gonna link them in the show notes below. But I found a video from Shawnice Shrouder. She's always on Bookstagram. She's so amazing. So I linked her video about romance books with no spice. I found another one from Carmen Gafrida. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. She recommended closed door romance book recommendations. And then Caroline Williams also had a video about closed door romance recommendations with no spice. So I recommended all their YouTube videos below so you can check them out because they're so amazing. Next, I'm going to go through some of the recommendations from followers. So first, Kate from Katie Reads or Katarine Reads said that she absolutely, and I love her Bookstagram, may I add, but she recommended Say You Mean It by Megan Ranking. So I'm gonna look this book up and just find the description really quick so that I can read it to y'all. So Say You Mean It by Megan Rankin. Okay. The last thing city girl Blair Williams wants to do ooh, is travel to a remote island on a lake near the Canadian border for her law firm's company-wide retreat. Having long struggled with high-functioning depression and low self-esteem, and attempting to fake her way through the weekend while battling the ever-present melancholy and negative internal thoughts that plague her. While there, she has taken comfort in a quiet and serene setting, befriending Graham, the owner of a barely surviving Ruby Lodge. With his mom currently in a nursing home, suffering from Alzheimer's, his dad preoccupied with taking care of her, Graham Peterson is left to run the lodge and deal with the growing pile of bills that threaten to jeopardize its future. After a successful retreat filled with various team building activities, something small seems to shift inside of Blair. Enough so that when Graham calls her weeks later looking for legal advice, she doesn't hesitate to drop everything and travel back to the island to help. When the work is done, will she end up returning to her lackluster life, or will the lure of the quiet island and the way it, it and Graham make her feel too strong to resist? And that is Say You Mean It by Megan Ranking. So thank you for the recommendation, Kate. That sounds absolutely wonderful. I will link that in the show notes below. Um, the next recommendation I wanted to include was from a fellow podcaster and friend of the podcast, which is Janessa from Read the Book First podcast. She recommended, sorry. She said, our close romances super romantic and lean spicy without actual scenes. So I guess it cut off her recommendation. That's okay. I will find it and I'll still link it in the show notes below. 'Cause I think it may have cut it off. We'll move forward. The next one is from Maddie Liz Reads. She recommended Flame After Fumble by Court Combe. I remember when I saw this comment, I thought the title was so cute. So Flame After Fumble book. I'm gonna find this description for y'all. Okay, so I remember recommended this person. She DM'd me and she told me the author was independent, so we love to see it. I also follow the author on Instagram, so that's cool. So this book says Liz Wilde is looking for an escape. Heading to Springs U is supposed to be the fresh start Liz needs to put herself first, and chase her dreams of becoming an artist. After one intense meeting with Spring U's newest star receiver, Hartley Knox, Eliza reconsiders the promise she made to herself, swearing off athletes like her cheating ex. Hartley Knox is looking for a home. Home has never been in Hartley Knox's dictionary. He's been busting at the seams to escape his absentee father for as long as he can remember. Heading off to Springs U means a life that uh, means a new life to make himself, and it didn't include falling hard and fast for the emotionally unavailable bombshell, Liza Wilde. When Hartley is dealt career-changing news, when he's dealt life-changing news and placed on academic probation, he is forced to rely on the one girl that plagues his daily thoughts to help him out of the mess he's created. Liza is adamant about remaining friends, but Hartley has a mastermind plan to create flames after his biggest fumble. So this is supposed to come, this actually came out, it appears February 7th, 2025. So this is a brand new book. So I'm very excited. Yeah, F Flame After the Fumble by Court Combe. So this looks super, super cute. I'm going to link it in the show notes below. I missed a word in the title. But I will link it down there. Thank you so much, Maddie, for the recommendation. Um, she also recommended the Meant to Be series by Jasmine. Oh, these are the ones that Janessa recommended. Okay. I'm so sorry. I think that they got cut off. So the ones that Janessa recommended was the Meant to Be series by Jasmine Gilroy. This author, I actually do have a book from her that I want to read. So the name rung a bell. She also recommended these two books specifically from the series, the Meant to Be series. If the Shoe Fits by Jasmine Gilroy and By the Book by Jasmine Gilroy. So I am going to pull up By the Book because I remember seeing that cover and I thought it was so cute. And apparently it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So even though I do not support Disney, I do support fantasy. And I think that fantasy is always super cute. So By the Book came out in 2022. And it is, okay, I got the description. All right. Okay. Sometimes to truly know a person, you have to read between the lines. Isabel is completely lost. When she began her career in publishing after college, she did not expect to be 25, still living at home, and one of the few Black employees at her publishing house. Overworked and underpaid, constantly torn between speaking up or stifling herself, Izzy thinks that there must be more to this publishing life. Oh, I love that. I love that play on words. Okay. All right. So when she overhears her boss complaining about the beastly high-profile author who has failed to deliver his long-awaited manuscript, Isabel sees an opportunity to finally get the promotion she deserves. All she has to do is to go to the author of Santa Barbara mansion and give him a pep talk or three. How hard could it be? But Izzy quickly finds out she is over her head. Bo Towers is not the most celebrity lightweight writing a telltale memoir. He is jaded and withdrawn, and it turns out just as lost as Izzy. But despite his standoffishness, Izzy needs Bo to deliver, and with her encouragement, his story begins to spill onto the page. They soon discover they have more in common than either expected, and as their deadline nears, Izzy and Bo begin to realize there may be something there that there wasn't before. Ooh, this is so cute. Okay. We also support a Black author. All right. Yes. And I heard this is super cute because Janessa said these are closed door romances that are super romantic and lean spicy without actually having spicy scenes. So if you like a romance, you want the butterflies, but you don't want spice on the page, then that might be for you. So, Janessa's recommendations, If the Shoe Fits by Jasmine Gilroy and By the Book by Jasmine Gilroy. Next, my friend Kim recommended Love Me in Color by Bella Purcell. Okay, noted. Um, Someone else recommended Four Weddings and a Four Weekends and a Funeral by Elle Palmer, and Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. A lot of people brought up Sarah Adams. I saw that name popping up a lot in the comments. So I'm going to pull up Practice Makes Perfect. Okay. So, from what I can see on Goodreads, Practice Makes Perfect is book two of a series. I wonder if it stands alone. Because I heard that One in Rome is its own story, and Practice Makes Perfect is the female main character of One in Rome's little sister. So I believe this does stand on its own. So what it says is this is a small town sweetheart and emotionally unavailable bad boy try to find common ground in their chemistry-filled romance from the author of The Cheat Sheet and When in Rome. Annie Walker is on a quest to find her perfect match, someone who complements her happy, quiet life running the local flower shop in Rome, Kentucky. But finding her dream man may be harder than Annie imagined. Everyone knows everyone in town, and dating prospects are getting fewer and fewer by the day. After she overhears her latest date say she is so unbelievably boring, Annie starts to think the problem might be with her. Is it too late to become flirtatious and fun like the leading ladies in her favorite romance movies? Maybe she only needs a little patience. Practice. And Annie has the perfect person in mind to be her tutor, Will Griffin. Will, the sexy, tattooed, and absolutely gorgeous bodyguard, is temporarily back in Rome, providing security for Amelia Rose as excitement grows about her upcoming marriage to Noah Walker and Annie's brother. He has one personal objective while on the job: stay away from Annie Walker and other possible attachments to this sleepy town. But sooner than he expected, Will finds himself tasked with helping Annie find the love of her life, with with helping Annie find the love of her life and becoming the next lady of Rome, Kentucky. Will wants no part in changing the sweet and lovely Annie. He knows for a fact that some stuffy, straight-laced guy won't make her happy, but he doesn't have the heart to say no. Amid steamy practice dates and strictly educational tutoring sessions, Annie discovers there are more layers to Will's usually stoic attitude. As the lines of their friendship become dangerously blurred, Annie reconsiders her dreamy guy. Maybe her love life doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be real. Oh, that is so cute. Okay, so I'm very grateful for that recommendation. Thank you so much, JL Reads 30. I really appreciated your recommendation. That looks super, super cute. Okay, next we are hopping into Kiara Bookfic. She recommended Offside Rule by Maeve Hazel and Worth the Risk by Bia Borges. Since we actually picked the second recommendation the first time, we're gonna pick the first one. So Offside Rule by Maeve Hazel. Okay. I wonder if this is a sports romance. Hear me out, team. Sometimes I look at the title of things and I'm like, it's giving this. And then I tend to be wrong. Like, I'm not always right. It is a sports romance. Okay, I see a soccer ball and I see stripes. Interesting. Okay. So this says Offside Rule, a single mom and football player novella. That means it's short. Okay, y'all. If you want a short book, it's 110 pages. That's nothing. That's a super short book. Okay. So this says Offside Rule is by Maeve Hazel. The description is with rules strictly prohibiting referee and player relationships, Ariana and Xavier's face an impossible choice. Fiery and focused, Ariana Esposito is a single mother under pressure. As a European football referee, she loves her job, but she struggles with an old injury and the guilt over moments she's missing with her younger daughter. The last thing she expects is for a charming young football player to make her believe in love again. Ariana finds herself torn between the world she's carefully built and the risky promise of something more. Dedicated and passionate, Xavier Cavelle is a rising star in European football, doing his best to shoulder the weight of his team's success. As he prepares his teammates for their shot at the championship, he finds inspiration in an unexpected place, the referee he can't keep his eyes off of. Ooh, she's talented and fiercely independent, everything he never knew he needed. Under mounting pressure, can Xavier step up to be everything his team and Ariana needs? As the championship approaches, will they play it safe or defy the rules to pursue the kind of love they long for? This looks super, super cute. Okay, guys. Okay, soccer romance. All right, all right. I do want to kind of look into the other recommendation that Chiara Bookfic recommended, which is Worth the Risk. This is by Bia Borges. Okay. I'm sorry if I said their name wrong. I'm sorry. I had to keep an eye because my cat is always like wandering in the distance. Got it. Okay, worth the risk. This is book one in the Silver Throne is for lovers. So the description says Winslow Winnie Parker is a relationship girl through and through. She just likes for them to come with an expiration date. Between managing her anxiety and opening a bakery, ooh, anxiety rep, love to see it. Winnie's coming to the conclusion she might have to she might have the kind of love she might never have the kind of love she reads about in romance novels. She meant to appreciate it, not participate in it. A hopeless romantic, emphasis on hopeless. She's been fond of playing safe for years. That is until Rhett Holloway comes back into her life. The 6'4", tattooed, solid muscle Greek god on skates, with a smile as bright as sunshine, is back in their hometown. And he's moving in next door. The feelings she had for him 8 years ago are still there, feelings that threatened to turn her carefully crafted view of love upside down. Barrett, or Rhett Holloway, is best known for playing professional hockey. We love a hockey romance! And leaving a trail of broken hearts behind him. Ooh, a player. Playing professional hockey is all Rhett's known for the past decade. After an injury shortens his career sooner than expected, he's trading his mouth guard for a whistle as the Silvertone High's new hockey coach. At 33, he's ready to settle down and start a family of his own. The only problem with this is he's ever been in love with was 8 years ago, and he's still in love with her. All right. Winnie Parker with wild curls and snarky comments is the one that got away, even if he's the one that left. After a stroke of luck in the housing market, they'll be living next to each other. He won't make it easy this time for her to avoid him or the feelings that he won't admit to. He's looking for forever, and he has his sights set on Winnie. Rhett might have fallen first, but when calls, bleh, sorry, Rhett may have fallen first, but when Winnie falls, it's head first off a cliff. Okay, Rhett's strong and steady nature may be exactly what Winnie needs to soothe her anxious mind. She just has to decide if she's willing to risk her heart and take a chance on the only man she's ever come close to falling for. This is 249 pages. This looks super cute. Okay? Listen, I'm a page number girl. If a book is like 800 pages, that puppy better be good. It better be amazing. But if it's under 300 pages, give me that puppy. I'll read that so quick. The next book that I saw recommended was from My Spooky Ways. They recommended The Spell Shop. Their comment about this book made me giggle so hard. Be aware, this entire video is about romances with no spice. And their comment literally had me laughing. So their comment was, because it's beautiful and magical, but not an intense romance. It also has flying cats and a sentient plant. Okay, all right. The moment I heard flying cat, I'm like, this sounds absolutely adorable. So let's hop right into it. The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. The Spell Shop is Sarah Beth Durst's romantasy debut, a lush cottagecore tale of stolen spellbooks, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. Ooh. I'm gonna butcher this name. I'm so sorry. Keela? Keela has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she and her assistant Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, have spent the last decade uh, sequestered among the Empire's most precious spellbooks, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library is up in flames, she and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry and head to a remote island. Kayla never thought she'd see again her childhood home. Taking refuge there, Kayla discovers, much to her dismay, a nosy and very handsome neighbor who can't take a hint and keeps showing up day after day to make her sure she's fed and help fix her new home. This sounds kind of cute. Um, in need of income, Kayla identifies something that even the bakery in town doesn't have. Jam. With the help of an old recipe book her parents left her and a bit of illegal magic, her cottage garden is soon covered in ripe berries. But magic can do magic can do more than life a little sweeter. So Keela risks the consequences of using unsanctioned spells and opens the island's first ever much needed secret spell shop. Like a hallmark rom-com full of mythical creatures and fueled by cinnamon rolls and magic, the spell shop will heal your heart and feed your soul. This is 377 pages and it came out July 9th of last year. So this looks absolutely adorable. The cover is like a cottage and it's like sunlight coming through and greenery and the titles in lavender. This looks like the epitome of cozy. It's giving practical magic but with lots of humor and jam. Illegal magic? count me in. This sounds absolutely adorable. What the heck? So thank you so much for the recommendation, My Spooky Ways. They also have amazing, like that book account, they always have the best thrillers and like spooky books. So if you're into that, I highly recommend following them. They're so cool. All right, next the person who actually inspired this video, Nikki Blake, she's one of the friends of the book podcast. She recommended a few books of her own. So I'm going to talk about some of them below. So there's quite a list. So I'm just going to list them off. So the first one was My Phony Valentine by Courtney Welsh. So that was pretty cool. Nikki also recommended Cream and Punishment by Brienne Ritchie Cordova, which is coming out April 15th of 2025. That title is definitely piquing my interest. So Cream and Punishment. I wonder if it's giving like bakery vibes. Listen, I'm a sucker for anything like baked good, all right? Anything where like a character is a chef or like they like to cook, I'm 100% down. Give it to me now. Okay, so Cream and Punishment. Revenge is a dish best served cold. You'd think as a baker, yeah, you'd think as a baker, Decker Piper would be able to avoid burning things. Apparently, that doesn't apply to her personal life, which just went up in flames. Moving next door to him is just the icing on the cake. Max Footness. Honky, charming, hates her guts. Yeah, him. The man whose life she ruined shares a wall with her now. And if that wasn't punishment enough, she can't seem to avoid him. It's only a matter of time before he exacts his revenge, and suspense is killing her. When he passes every chance to humiliate her, she's given him plenty. She wonders whether she's misjudged him. And if that's the case, can sparks between them possibly lead to something more? Or will the crash, or will she crash and burn yet again? Cream and Punishment is a feel-good romantic comedy that will bring all the swoony, sizzling chemistry while keeping the bedroom door closed. It is the first in the Smitten in the Mitten series by the interconnected standalone novels. This sounds absolutely adorable. What? So that was a description directly from Goodreads. So I had to recommend that. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Nikki, for the recommendation. What? Next, I'm gonna hop into a friend of the podcast and another podcast, which is Bound Sisters podcast. It's three sisters. They do a podcast. It's on Spotify. It's so good. They're on different platforms as well. They're also on Instagram, so definitely check them out. Bond Sisters, I love you guys. You're so, so amazing. And it's bound like books. I'm so sorry. I just worked and like my brain is burning out. Okay. So Bound Sisters recommended a few books, and the first one they recommended was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Meyer. The next one was What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I'm sorry if I said their name wrong. They also recommended two books by Rainbow Rowell, which was Attachments and Fangirl. So I am going to choose What the River Knows as a book we're going to read the description of, because I know what the cover of this book looks like, but I've actually never read the back of it. And I've always had it on my TBR because I just love the cover. And I heard that it's giving the vibes of the mummy, and there's a statue that comes to life. And that's all I needed to know. So now we're gonna read this the description, just to get a little bit more in there. This book is 416 pages. It came out October 31st of 2023, so it's not that old. All right. Oh, this person's name is very long. Okay, we're gonna do our best. Bolivian Argentinian Inez Oliveira? Oliveira. Okay. Belongs to the glittering upper society of the 19th century Buenos Aires. And like the rest of the world, the town is steeped in old magic that's been largely left behind and forgotten. Inez has everything a girl might want, except for the one thing she yearns for the most, her globe-trotting parents, who frequently leave her behind. When she receives the word of their tragic deaths, Inez inherits their massive fortune and a mysterious guardian, an archaeologist in partnership with his Egyptian brother-in-law. Yearning for answers, Inez sails to Cairo, bringing her sketchbooks and an ancient golden ring her father sent her for safekeeping before he died. But upon her arrival, the old world magic tethered to the ring pulls her down a path where she soon discovers there's more to her parents' disappearance than what her guardian led her to believe. With her guardian's infuriatingly handsome assistant thwarting her at every turn, Inez must rely on her agent magic to uncover the truth about her parents' disappearance, a risk becoming a pawn in the larger game that will kill her. The Mummy meets Death on the Nile in this lush, immersive historical fantasy set in Egypt, filled with adventure, a rivals to lovers romance, and a dangerous race. Oh, this sounds so good. Also, the book I think I'm thinking of with the like statue that comes to life. I think that's a different book. I'm so sorry. I also don't know the title of that book. So if anyone knows the title of that book, please put it in the show notes because I don't know the title of that book. I read so many books or I like put things on my TBR so often. It's very rare I actually find the book. So I might need your help, y'all. Okay, moving on. Nikki also recommended Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I have seen this book everywhere. I think it was on Kindle Unlimited at one point. I don't know if it's still there. But yeah, that was a really hyped book. Like a lot of people wanted, have mentioned that. So I'm just gonna throw it out there in the universe. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Someone has said that there is no spice. So if you like letters and possibly a doomed romance and enemies to lovers, mistaken identity, definitely check it out. My friend also recommended that book, so it is definitely hyped. Next one is Margot Primrose, Romance. That's the name of her blog on Bookstagram. She recommended A Love Catastrophe by Helena Hunting. So that's really cool. I'm gonna look that up. A Love Catastrophe by Helena Hunting. A Love Catastrophe. Got it. Okay. So the description of this book is the fur is about to fly between a cheerful cat sitter and a grumpy hockey nerd in this hilarious and charming rom-com by the New York Times best-selling author of Meet Cute. Kitty Hart has become an internet famous kitty whisperer for her expertise on all things feline, and as a result, her cat sitting business is blooming. But lately, she has a terrible feeling that maybe her life isn't quite going where it's supposed to, especially after falling face first into her newest client and not exactly the best first impression. Fortunately, Miles Thorne is just as bad as first impressions. Strike, he doesn't like cats, especially Prince Francois, the haughty and mischievous Sphinx his mom left in his care. Strike tackling Kitty to the floor in a misguided attempt to save her as the pet he continuously calls the Gremlin. An awkwardness slides into the attraction and things start to turn personal. While these two complete opposites ever be able to find their fairy tale ending. But this is furry tale. This is 373 pages. And it came out June 13th of 2023. This looks super, super cute. Also cat themed. I have a cat named Midnight. He's currently in his cat bed, and the chaotic energy is real. So yeah. Paperback Pleasures. So Paperback Pleasure Books, they're also a cozy and amazing podcast. They had four recommendations, and I will pick one title out of these four recommendations to dive into a description of. So the first one is Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Nueva. I know that's a queer one, and it's a male-male love romance, I think. But that's based off the cover. I don't know if they're male-male, but I know it's queer, so that's cool. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So I actually I might read descriptions for two of these books because the titles are like pulling me in. So Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Nueva. This is actually already on my TBR. It's so massive I lose track. So this is Remix Classics number 9. Oh, there must be many. Oh, trans. Okay, trans representation. Woo! A trans boy searches for a future and a romance in which he can live and love openly as himself in this heart heart-rendering young adult reimagining of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, part of the Remix Classic series. That's awesome. And I'm sorry earlier for saying male male. I am not sure. I was just the cover. But I like to hear that is trans representation because that's super important, and I love seeing any LGBTQIA representation in books, especially for trans. I like that. It's awesome. Okay. So the description says London, 1812. Oliver Bennet feels trapped, not just by the endless corsets, petticoats, and skirts he's forced to wear on a daily basis, but also by society's expectations. The world and the vast majority of his family and friends think Oliver is a girl named Elizabeth. He is therefore expected to mingle at balls, wearing a pretty dress, entertaining suitors, and regardless of his interest in them, ultimately become someone's wife. But Oliver can't bear the thought of such a fate. He finds solace in a few times he can sneak out of his family's home and explore the city rightfully dressed as a young gentleman. It's during one such exertion when Oliver becomes acquainted with Darcy, a sulky young man who's been rude to Elizabeth at recent social function. But in the comfort of being out of the public eye, Oliver comes to find that Darcy is quite sweet, an intelligent boy with a warm heart, not to mention attractive. As Oliver spends more time as his true self, often with Darcy, part of him dares to hope that his dream of love and life as a man can be possible. But suitors are growing bolder and even threatening, and his mother is growing more desperate to see him settled into an engagement. Oliver will have to choose, settle for safety, security, and a life of pretending to be something he's not, or risk it all for a slim chance at freedom, love, and a life that can be truly his own. Wow. I might have to move this up in the TBR because this sounds absolutely amazing. Also, Pride and Prejudice remix, queer. We need it, we need it, we need it. I'm sorry. I love Pride and Prejudice. That was also on Paperback Pleasure's books recommendation is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. But I just need it to be freshened up sometimes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay? I like a good traditional remix. I need it. I need it. So this sounds absolutely adorable. Um, I'm also going to pick another title from the recommendations because they had a book called Night Circus, which I have heard a lot about over the years, and I never knew what it was about. So we're going to find out together. All right, so The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This book is 506 pages. It was released in 2011. So yeah, it's been out for a while. The circus arrives without warning. No announcement precedes it. It is simply there, when yesterday was not. Within the black and white striped canvas tents is an utterly unique experience full of breathtaking amazements. It is called Le Circus des Rêves and is only open at night. But behind the scenes, a fierce competition is underway, a duel between two young magicians, Celia and Marco, who have been trained since childhood um, ex expressly for the purpose of their mercurial instructors. Unbeknownst to them, this is a game in which only one can be left standing, and the circus is for the stage of a remarkable battle of the imagination and will. Despite themselves, however, Celia and Marco tumble headfirst into love, a deep, magical love that makes the lights flicker and the room glow warm when they so much as brush hands. True love or not, the game must play out. And the fates of everyone involved, from the cast of extraordinary circus performers to patrons hang in the balance, suspended as precariously as the daring acrobats overhead. Written in a rich, seductive prose, this spellcasting novel is a feast for the senses and the heart. Wow, this sounds absolutely amazing. Also I love like a high stakes romance where like we're in love, but we're like we have to fight to survive. We have no choice. It's giving Peeta and Katniss, so oh, that romance really did have me in chokehold. Oh, so I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty. I love a good high stakes romance. I'm sorry. Next, I'm going to list off some books from our last recommendation, which is from Lily's it's Library Query. Library Query. Okay, so here's some of the recommendations directly from their quote. Oh yes, tons. All of the Uzma Jaladan and Abida Jaguardas books, The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, Love from A to Z by S.K. Alley, Reggie and Delilah's Year of Falling in Love by Elise Bryant, The Lesbian's Guide to Catholic School, and Louise Ortega's Survival Club by Sonia Reyes, XOXO and ASAP by Axie O, Anne Lang's books, Michelle Quach's books, Daniel Deconstructed by James Ramos. Sorry, this list is so long. Lily, you do not need to apologize. I love a good long list of books. I will never, ever, ever complain. Thank you for all these recommendations. I'm going to pick two books from your list to read the summary of or the description, so everyone can hear a little bit about them. Okay, so the one I'm going to pick was Love from A to Z by S.K. Alley. But I will list all these books in the show notes below so people can find them. So, Love from A to Z. Okay, this looks super cute. All right. From William C. Morris Award finalist S.K. Alley comes an unforgettable romance that is part of The Sun is Also a Star, mixed with Anna and the French Kiss. I loved that book. Following two Muslim teens who meet during a spring break trip. Something you find amazing, even ordinary amazing, like potatoes, because they make French fries happen, like the perfect fries Adam and his mom used to make together. And whatever gives you pause, like the fact that there are hateful people in the world, like Zeneb's teacher who won't stop reminding the class how bad Muslims are. But Zeneb, the only Muslim in the class, isn't bad. She's angry. When she gets suspended for confronting her teacher, he begins investigating her activist friends. Zeneb heads to her aunt's house in Doha, Qatar. I'm so sorry for pronouncing that wrong. For an early start to spring break. Fueled by guilt of getting her friends in trouble, she resolves to try it out, a newer, nicer version of herself in a place where no one knows her. Then her path crosses Adam's. Since he got diagnosed with multiple scoliosis in November, Adam stopped going to classes, intent instead on perfecting the making of things, intent on keeping the memory of his mom alive for his little sister. Adam's also intent on keeping his diagnosis secret from his grieving father. Alone, Adam and Zeneb are playing roles for themselves, keeping their real thoughts locked away in their journals. Until a marvel and an oddity occurs. Adam and Zeneb meeting. Adam and Zeneb meeting. Oh my God, this looks so cute. This is 358 pages, first published April 3rd, 30th of 2019. So this looks really cute. And from what I can see, this author has multiple books. So this just I just I'm gonna put this on my like want to read books because this sounds absolutely adorable. And I just think it's so beautiful to see like young adult books that have so much heart. And I feel people like kind of underestimate them sometimes. I have definitely fallen in that category and I have been corrected because oh my gosh, young adult books have a lot of creativity and a lot of beauty. Okay, I'm gonna pick one more book from Millie's recommendations, and that'll be the last recommendation of the video. Um, hmm. I think I'm gonna pick I'm trying not to go with the one that I know I want to choose. I actually recommended I had a copy of this book, but I recommended it to a friend. I gave it to her for a little bit. She's gonna give it back at some point. So I'm going to pick The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams because this also came up a lot in recommendations in the comments. This kept coming up. So okay. Is it ever too late to leave the friend zone? Boy, oh boy. Hi, my name is Bree Camden, and I am hopelessly in love with my best friend and star quarterback, Nathan Donaldson. So is half of America, judging by the tabloids and how much the guy dates. The first step is admitting it, right? Except I can never admit it to him because clearly doesn't see me that way, and the last thing I want is for things to get weird between us. Nothing but good old-fashioned, no touching, the sexiest man alive, platonic friendship for us. Everything is exactly how I like it. Yes, good. I am not crying. I'm just peeling an onion. Our friendship is going swimmingly until I accidentally spill the beans to a reporter over too much tequila. Now the world seems to think me and Nathan belong together. Oh, and did I mention we have to publicly date for 3 weeks until after the Super Bowl because we signed a contract? Oops, I forgot I can't tell anyone that. Bottom line is now my best friend is smudging all the lines, acting very unplatonic, and I'm just trying to keep my body from bursting into flames every time he touches me. How am I going to make it through 3 weeks of dating Nathan without anything changing between us, especially when it almost sort of seems like he's fighting for a completely different outcome? Send help. XO Bree. This actually sounds super cute. I'm a sucker for a good sports romance. I don't mind it. Even though I don't know anything about sports, I have no idea what's going on. I don't mind it. Just because I find that the banter is always divine, and there's something to be said for fake dating. I think fake dating is super cute. I fell in love with fake dating for the first time in To All the Boys I Loved Before. When I read those books in high school, I had never read fake dating before. And once I did, I was like, this is amazing. Give me more. If it's done well, it's addictive and wonderful and magical. And this sounds really, really cute. This is 306 pages and it came out August of 2021. So not that long ago. This sounds really cute. Okay, those are all my recommendations and all of my friends on Bookstagram recommendations of books with no spice or little to no spice or fade to black, closed door. Call it what you will. I will link them all in the show notes below. I'm so sorry earlier for the tech issue, but I am so grateful that you stuck around to listen. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. You can rate me on Spotify for this episode. Just put, 4 or 5 stars. Please be kind. And then on YouTube, please subscribe and like this video. Leave a comment, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.